Well, welcome everyone. I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Michael Robson and I'm the new Sales and Marketing Manager at Netcare. I'm very excited to be working for Netcare. It's going to be a bit of a fun time. Hopefully I will get to meet you, our customers, between now and Christmas. So we would like to welcome you to our first event, and this one is the Business Contingency and Disaster Recovery. And for this event, it's a lunch and learn. So we hope you enjoy your Uber Eats vouchers that you should have all received in your inbox this morning. So this is our first lunch and learn that we've had for a couple of years, but we're aiming to do more in the next few months. So any ideas for topics, please let me know. So let's get going. It gives me great pleasure in introducing to you Peter Eldon from Datto. Peter is a Senior Channel Development Manager for APAC and is a senior member of Datto's APAC leadership team. Prior to working for Datto, Peter owned his own managed service provider business in Queensland and then was also a GP for another MSP. Peter has over 25 years experience in IT and telecommunications. Peter's role with Datto is education, entertainment, and to inform customers about their risk to their data and the needs for business contingency strategies to help combat those risks. Peter is ideally suited to talk about business continuance and disaster recovery because working for Datto, he sees daily, firsthand, the current issues being faced by businesses. Hopefully, this presentation will not give you nightmares. And you'll learn a lot from the presentation. So without further ado, over to you, Peter.
Thank you very much, Michael. That was very kind, and thanks for those kind words. I think the only thing that would give you nightmares is too many pictures of me. So there's too many of them on the screen, so let me move right past that. As Michael said, my name is Peter Eldon. I'm the Senior Channel Development Manager here at Datto, and that normally means I would be on the road and seeing you lovely people in person. But obviously, because of our current reality, that is not the case, and I've been stuck in my office what seems like the last 200 years. But hopefully, we're on the right track, and we'll be able to get back on the road very soon. But as Michael said, I really liked the initiative that Netcare have done, which is offered that Uber Eats voucher as a bit of a thank you for you guys joining us. And we very much endorse that, and we do appreciate your time. So what I want to do is tell you a little bit about Datto, what we do in relation to business continuity and how that differs from traditional backups, and then how we can use business continuity strategies and technology to prepare our businesses for any events that happen, be it both physical or virtual. So before we talk about what we do, let's talk about who we are and why we can be trusted with your data, because that's in effect what we're asking you to do, is trust us to look after your data on your behalf. So we are a US-based company, and in actual fact, we just went to IPO in the US, so we're a publicly listed company as of about 3 days ago. We are 100% channel only, and what that means is we only work with organizations like Netcare and what we call MSPs, managed service providers. And that's because we have particular skills around understanding business continuity and data security, but then we partner with on-the-ground community-minded organizations like Netcare who really have an understanding of customers' needs. And when you put that together, that gives a perfect solution for end customers. We're in every continent that there are people, and we have data centers in all these areas. And more importantly, from an Australian standpoint, we have data centers in both Sydney and Melbourne, which means that all of our customers' data within ANZ stays within the Australian sovereignty, which is very important. We've got over 1,700 employees globally, and 70% of them are either building our solutions or supporting Michael and the Netcare team in protecting customers' data. And we have over 500 petabytes of data under our protection globally. And as I said, all of that through our managed service provider partners. So when we talk to businesses about the best way to protect their data, there are some particular easy steps or some standard steps that are very much best practice in protecting our data, but also our customers' privacy, because those two are tied hand in hand. So what is best practice for protecting our data? Well, first off is a firewall. And for people who are non-technical on this call, what is a firewall? Well, it's a bit of equipment that stands on the edge of your network, and it makes sure whatever comes into your network is allowed in. And the best way I explain it is it's kind of like a bouncer on a nightclub or a bar, and that bouncer's job is to make sure that whoever comes in to that venue is dressed appropriately, is going to behave themselves, and should be in there. And that's very much what that firewall does for your network. It makes sure that anyone coming into your network is allowed in and they won't do a bad thing while in there. And the second part we have is a spam filter. And if we were actually all in the same room, I'd say to you guys, whose spam filter annoys you guys? Because it sometimes picks up things that aren't spam. And a lot of you guys would go, yeah, me. And I'd go, good, right? Because that's important. So you want your spam filter to be wound up a little bit too tight, so it's picking up things that aren't spam and aren't bad actors, because that means it's picking up the things that are. And a little bit of inconvenience is better than a major outage. Then we get to server and endpoint antivirus. So I'm sure the team at Netcare are talking to you guys about having best practice next gen antivirus, and to make sure it's equipped to protect you for the new threats that as they appear. And then an area of significant growth, which is one that I really believe a lot of businesses can get better at, is staff training and cybersecurity awareness. So, because technology can only go part of the way. It's very important, but it's not as good as having motivated and knowledgeable staff within your business, just kind of looking at something and go, that just doesn't look right. Well, I might just check with Paul to see if he did send me that email with saying that the account's now changed and to send money to a different account, or is this a bogus email and a threat? So making sure that your staff understand what risks are, understand their responsibilities about how they use Facebook and LinkedIn and all those type of things are really important in making sure that your data is safe. And then finally, which we believe is the most important part, is a recent and easily recoverable copy of your data. And what that means is that when all those other things are preventable, when they fail and a bad guy gets in and damages your data, or an event damages your data, that you've got a copy of it that you can quickly go back to and continue on working. Because when we talk to our partners like Netcare and MSPs around the world, what they tell us is, on this journey up the mountain of protecting your data, all of these preventative measures are important. So antivirus, threat management, employee training, and patching. These are all very important, but they're all preventative. They have to work 100% of the time. Whereas that final solution, that final option of an easy to recover copy of your data is the best way to ensure that when one of these fails, you have got a recovery mechanism to do that. So how do we do this? Well, let me just show you, because this is about as technical as I'm going to get on this presentation. So what we do with working with Netcare is we put a physical piece of hardware into your premises. And this is for protecting your equipment on site. So your servers, your application servers, anything that's on your premises, this is how we protect it. So we put a physical piece of hardware into your premises, and what that hardware does is it talks to all your critical infrastructure. So your physical servers, your virtual servers, your politically important PCs, whatever it is. And what we do is we take a snapshot, a copy of that entire server. So not just the data on that server, but the entire server. So the operating system, the drivers, your applications, and your critical data, your files that are kept in there. And we take an entire copy of that and we hold that on the Datto device. We then use our own IP to send a copy of that server to the Datto cloud as well, which is, as I said, is in Sydney and Melbourne. So from a DR, a disaster recovery standpoint, This is best practice, because what you've got is 3 copies of your data, 2 on site and 1 in a separate area in a cloud that is remote. And from DR, that's fantastic. But again, we're not talking about disaster recovery, we're talking about business continuity. So where the difference is, and the smart is in the Datto solution, is that in that device, we have redundant CPU and memory. And what that means is, in the case of an event where you have an outage on site, so let's say you have a micro event where you lose 1 server in your offices, and that server could be running your invoicing, it could be running mail, an application that you use for your ERP, whatever it is. So that server has died because the motherboard's blown up or the power packs stopped working. Normally, you would now be not able to use that server or that application until you get that server fixed, which means you ring Netcare, they go, ooh, okay, that server's dead. We're going to need to get Dell out to do a warranty job or whatever it is. So while that's happening, you can't use that, and you've just got to sit there and wait. And that could take hours or days or even weeks to fix, depending how big the problem is and what that problem is. However, if you've got a Datto in place, then what would happen is that server would die. You would call Michael and the Netcare team. They would see that problem and instantly virtualize the broken server on the Datto device. And what that means is your staff are now working on that server from the Datto, none the wiser that there's actually a problem with your production server. So they can keep invoicing, talking to customers, checking information, checking stock, whatever it is. While that's going on, we're still backing up the rest of your environment, and we're still backing up the server that is working on the Datto. The Netcare team send Dell out to fix that server and get that fixed. And when it's fixed, they can actually use that Datto device to rebuild the server on the fly and then cut your team across once it's fixed. So a true business continuity solution here, whereas normally you would have been down for multiple hours while they fix that problem, you've now been able to trade through that with no loss of data and no impact to your customers. But let's say you're having a really big problem. So you're having a really bad day, and not only do you lose 1 server, but you lose that entire server room. So all your servers in your office are broken, and the Datto is broken as well. It could have been from water, could have been from a power outage, whatever it is. The Netcare team can virtualize whatever was on the Datto device in the Datto cloud, and then deliver it back to your staff and your customers via a VPN or RDP or something like that. So you might send all your team to work from a serviced office or from home or whatever it is while you fix this major problem on site. But because of the Datto solution, you're still able to access all your data, you haven't lost anything, and you can still keep trading. When they've fixed that problem, we would send a new Datto out, and that Datto would then be used to rebuild your entire environment. So again, a true business continuity solution rather than a backup or a disaster recovery solution. And all of that is backed up by 24/7 support, because what we're saying here is you're effectively buying an outcome. So rather than buying software and hardware and you supporting that yourselves, we're actually delivering you a service, which is the access to your data no matter what the event. And what that means is that Michael and the Netcare team, that if there's a major event that's hit you guys and also them, they've got the support of the Datto team in the US who just work 24/7 resolving major incidents around the world, be it hurricanes, cyclones in Australia, or a major malware attack on a particular customer. You've got the confidence in knowing that no matter how big the event, we've got the team to back up Michael and his team to make sure that you're up and running as quickly as possible. And this is what they look like. So they just kind of look like normal servers. But the important thing to remember is that these go from 500 gig all the way up to 100 TB. So no matter how big your data needs are or small, we've got a solution that will fit that particular size. And what we're saying to businesses in Australia and New Zealand around the world is we really need to start rethinking backup and what it is to back up our data and how protected it is. Because when we think about events hitting our businesses, we kind of think of these things, right? We think of the major disasters, the floods, the fires, the cyclones, the earthquakes, that type of thing. And of course, when they hit, they are major and they have significant impact on a business. And you know, you should make sure you've got a disaster recovery plan in place, a business continuity plan in place that covers natural disasters. But they're not the major disaster that's going to hit your business day to day. Unfortunately, the biggest disaster that's going to hit your business on a day to day is your staff. Now, it's a little bit unfair because it's not your staff's fault. Your staff need to be online. Your staff need to be asking for resumes and PDFs and talking to people online. But unfortunately, they can't trust the information that's coming back into your business. So when we look at what issues cause downtime to businesses, we see that human error takes up quite a large component of that, around 58%. But when you put human error together with ransomware, you see that 96% of all downtime incidents are caused by those two or a combination of both of those. When we look at hardware failures, look, we're getting pretty good at this as an industry now, right? There's quite a bit of redundancy that's built into hardware these days. So that's not as big an issue as it used to be. And natural disasters, as we said, when they hit, they are massive. But fingers crossed, you're not seeing many of those in a year or in 5 years. I mean, 2020, it's kind of thrown a fair few at us, and we've still got the season finale coming up in December. So hopefully everything's okay. But the two that we really need to focus on is human error and ransomware. And when we look at this and when we look at how ransomware has changed over the years, it's quite interesting. So the first ransomware attack we saw in Australia was 2013. So the first malware or crypto that hit Australian shores was 2013. And what would happen was you'd be working on your computer in 2013, and all of a sudden everything would freeze, and you get a big Australian Federal Police logo that would appear on your screen, and it said, you've been doing something illegal or immoral on your computer, and we're giving you a $1,500 fine. And it's the internet, so 50% of people are doing something illegal or immoral on their computers, so a lot of people thought that checked out. But this scam was a money order that you paid to India, and supposedly from the Federal Police. But you'd be amazed how many people actually paid that fine, supposed fine, in 2013 because they'd never seen anything like this before. And that was that first one. And this is a really interesting date because what we say at Datto is anything before this date is BC, before crypto. And anything after this date is AC, after crypto. And this is the important thing that I'd recommend if you take one thing away from this, other than the Uber Eats voucher, so two things, is this point here. If your backup and disaster recovery strategies or technology is from around this date, then it's not really quick to protect you after this date. Because that was a game changer. Everything we were doing in the industry up until 2013 was around a physical event. So something happening to your site, a fire, a flood, a power outage. We weren't thinking about people, criminal organizations, actively trying to steal our data away from us and hold it ransom. And so as the threat changes and as the risk changes, then our response needs to change to make sure we're protected from those risks. And, you know, we're seeing this more and more. And I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you've seen one of these screens, then you're having a bad day. Because this means you've been hit by a crypto locker and now you've got problems within your network. And it's important to understand that the people who are doing this, they're not fat kids in their mum's basement. This is highly organized criminal gangs that are doing malware attacks on Australian businesses and businesses around the world because this is very profitable for them. So, you know, you'll see multiple different styles of attack and how they actually attack businesses, but their end result is to encrypt that data and then basically ransom that back to you with Bitcoin. And, they will give you your data back. This is a business model, and it's designed in a way to get you data and then give it back when you pay your fee. And they come up with new and interesting ways to do this. This is just one quickly I'll give you a look at. So this is an older one, and it says that you've been hit by a ransomware, and you can get your files back the fast and easy way, which is you pay 1 Bitcoin and they give you your data back. Or you can do it the nasty way, which is if you get 3 other people infected with this ransomware, they'll give you your data back, which is terrifying. They're kind of running Amway, but for malware. And what I would encourage is when I do these webinars, I just do a quick look for any industries or any quick stories to show an idea what's out there. And I encourage you to do that, is look at whatever industries you're in, do a quick search, and you'll get an idea of who's been attacked and what the results were. So, these are just some quick ones. I did a search on about some businesses in Australia around healthcare is a particular area that gets hit. We see that TAFEs and education are areas of attack. I did a quick search on engineering firms in Australia. I'm not sure if we have any engineering firms on, but I didn't even get past the search page. These are just what popped up here about how these criminal gangs, what they do is they understand the businesses that rely on their data and their data's importance, and they target those with scams that are interesting to engineers, right? So they'll write and look like it's from a government body or like it's an audit or something like that to get you to click on that payload, which then delivers malware to your business. This is just some stats on particularly like who's hot, the top of the pops for who the malware industries are attacking. And what we see here is obviously governments take a lot. Healthcare takes some significant hits, education, banking, and financial services. So in effect, if you are in professional services as a business and you're in Australia, which I'm assuming a lot of you guys are, then you are the target for these criminal enterprises, because they understand that we value our business, our data, and that we do have money to pay. A couple of other quick interesting ones that we saw recently. So toll transport have had a terrible run. They got a malware attack back in May. It hit them about 3 or 4 times and hit significant impact on their business. Same thing with Lion Nathan. It hit them. It was affecting beer production, which was terrifying, and milk, which was less worrying for me. But what was interesting about these particular businesses was, they had a disaster recovery plan in place, but it wasn't a business continuity plan. So the problem was, yes, they had their data in a place where they could recover, but it took multiple weeks to be able to recover that data. Now, I would say that if it takes you multiple weeks to get back to what you do as a business, then you've still got a disaster on your hands. No matter if you've got the data, those 2 weeks will have significant impact on your revenue and your reputation and your customers. And when we look at the cost of recovering from malware attacks, we see that the cost of recovering is increasing every year as well. So we do a survey of Michael and Netcare and other organizations like this, and they give us interesting stats as to see how malware is evolving. So the cost of recovering from a malware attack now is 23 times more than the cost of the ransom. So when we look there, the average ransom charge now is around $5,900. So that's what the bad guys want you to pay if they get your data. But if you say, no, I'm not going to pay that, we've got a copy of our data somewhere else, we're going to try and recover. If that's not a business continuity solution, then the average cost to recover is $141,000. Just from the time of downtime, technical costs, all those type of things. So I'm sure a number of you are sitting there thinking, well, hang on a second. If it's only $6,000 to pay the ransom and $141,000 to recover if I don't have a BCDR solution, why shouldn't I just pay the ransom? Okay, that's good questions. So let's go through that. So if you pay the ransom, well, you've taught the bad guys three things. So the first thing you've told them is that you exist, because a lot of it is just spam. They don't really know they've got someone until you say, hey, you've got me, can I have my data back? So the first thing you've just said, hey, I exist. Secondly, you've told them that your data is important to you because you're now trying to pay to get it back. And thirdly, you've told them that you've got money because you're willing to pay the ransom. So if you do pay the ransom and you are looking to get your data back, then I can guarantee you will be attacked again and multiple times after that, because you've shown them that you are an easier mark and that you are willing to pay for those ransoms. On top of that, if you do pay, then you do have a data breach issue, which we'll talk about a little bit later about the compliance around that. So our recommendations on this is never pay a ransom. Always be an ability to just remove that malware through the support of your partners like Netcare and quickly recover your data through a solution such as a Datto. So we've given you an idea of how they're using software to attack services and for ransomware, but I want to give you a quick rundown on how they're using different ways to attack businesses. And sometimes it's not all about money. So I don't know if anyone remembers who this gentleman here is, but this gentleman works in Hawaii. Now you can tell that because he's rocking a pretty awesome Hawaiian shirt. That's not a coincidence. He works in Hawaii, and he works in the disaster area in Hawaii, and their job is to alert the island Hawaii if there's any problems with natural disasters or events. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but about 3 years ago around Christmas, a text went out to the whole island of Hawaii saying a ballistic missile was inbound to Hawaii and to seek shelter. This is not a drill, this is happening. Now, I know this because I was in Hawaii when this happened. And this is actually a picture from my phone. And I was sat on a toilet when this message came through. And I might tell you that the toilet is the best place to be sitting when this message hits your phone. Now, it took 35 minutes from this first text that went out to say that this missile was in, before there was a second message that said, sorry, it was a mistake, there's no missile. And that was quite an interesting 30 minutes, I might say. But let's just go back to our friend here. So our friend here used to work in that department. And this is a picture from his social media account a week or so before that text went out to the whole island. And it was just a picture he put on his social media saying, here I am, I'm very important. This is me at work doing important things. Now, no one's ever said why that message went out, but there's a little hint as to what could have happened here. And if we were in live, I'd say to you guys, can anyone see a problem with this picture that he posted to social media? And a few of you guys are pretty smart. I'm sure you've already spotted it. But in that picture to his social media post was his password and username on his computer. Now, no one's actually said how that went out, but coincidentally, not long after this message went out, that picture went out, that message went out and scared the proverbial out of me and the whole of Hawaii. And this gentleman is no longer with them. And this is a good example of how the bad guys are using multiple methods to gain access to your networks. Now, in this case, they use that to scare the proverbial out of us, but in your business, it could be to pretend to be someone else. It could be to try and change payment details on invoices. So this is where that staff training component of your business continuity or your business resilience plan is so important. You need technology, you need training, and you need a strategy, which means that no matter what the event, be it a hacker or be it a malware attack or be it a ballistic missile coming inbound, you've got a plan to recover from that. So we've spoken about on-premise, so when you've got servers on site and how we protect that from physical events and from malware attack. Let's talk a little bit about when you're in SaaS. So when you've moved some of your services to cloud. And the best example of this would be Office 365 and G Suite. So what we've done at Datto is, as our goal is to protect data no matter where it lives, we've developed a solution to protect the data that stays in Office 365 and in G Suite. Now, I'm sure if you guys are sitting there going, well, hang on a second, why do I need to protect my data if it's in the cloud? Isn't that why I put it in the cloud? Well, no. So there are lots of reasons you move data to the cloud, and I'm sure that the team in Netcare would have spoken to you about 365. You can work anywhere, you can have multiple copies, you've got all these collaboration tools. So there's brilliant reasons to be in the cloud, but your cloud vendors work on what they call a mutual responsibility agreement. And what that means is that they have a job to do to protect that data, but you as a data owner has a job to do as well. So let's have a quick look at this. So what the vendor does, like Microsoft, when we look at 365, what they say is that they will protect access to the cloud. They will make sure you can always get in there and see your data. And they'll make sure that they build their hardware properly and they put it in a safe place and they build it redundantly and they make sure they've got lots of power and all those things. However, you as the data owner has got to make sure that you protect the data held inside the cloud. And what can happen to that? Well, it can just be human error, fat fingers, people delete things accidentally. It could be malicious insiders. So it could be someone in your organization who is trying to perpetuate fraud and is deleting things to try and cover their tracks. Could be someone who's about to leave and just wants to delete stuff to cause you a problem. And then these final two, which are the bigger issues, which is external hackers and malware. Because as we said, these guys are criminal enterprise, right? These are very organized criminal gangs. So as businesses are looking at different ways to use data and looking at cloud, then the bad guys are looking at it as well and going, okay, well, we need to build a plan and a strategy to attack cloud services because lots of people are moving there. And when we look at Microsoft terms and conditions, and I don't know about you guys, but if I'm having trouble sleeping, this is a great way to help you sleep. So they say this in there is that they're not responsible for the data that's held within the cloud. It's the owner's responsibility to protect that. So what we do at Datto is we copy that data every 8 hours, so 3 times a day, and we keep that offsite separate to Microsoft. And the same thing with G Suite. And what that means is that if there is a data loss, and when there's a data loss through a ransom cloud, a malware attack, or for accidental deletion, then Michael and the Netcare team can very easily recover that data and make that available for you. Now, Michael tells me that the majority of you guys are already on SaaS backup, so that is fantastic. Kudos for you guys and Michael and the team for already putting that in place. If you're not, I do recommend you look at this if you've got 365 tenancies, because your mail, your Teams, your OneDrive, your SharePoint, all of that is your critical data, and you want to make sure that that's available to you no matter what the event. So we've spoken about on-premise protection, we've spoken about in the cloud, we've talked about physical events, we've spoken about malware attacks and cyber incidents. Let's just talk a little bit now about the compliance side of that. So I'm sure you guys would be aware of the Notifiable Data Breach Act. This is legislation that is part of the federal legislation, as part of the Privacy Commission. And what this is basically a set of rules that the government have put in place that when you have a cyber incident and you lose data, that there are a set of rules that you have to report to the Privacy Commissioner, and you also need to tell your customers who could have been affected by that. And then there are rules in place or penalties in place if you don't report that to both the Commission and to your customers. And there are also penalties in place if you didn't take reasonable steps to protect that data. Now, what are reasonable steps? Well, definitely Michael and the Netcare team will be talking to you about that all the time, and please listen to those trusted advisors' advice on that. But they're very much those best practices that we spoke about at the beginning of the webinar. So that firewall, the spam filter, the antivirus, and then that easy to recover copy of your data. Those are all the things that the Commission are going to look at and saying, look, these guys did everything within their powers to protect that data. they're trying to do the right thing here. So it's very important that, we're not only protecting our data for our own access to make sure that we can, keep trading, but we've got to make sure that we're doing the right thing as a corporate citizen and making sure that our customers' data is protected. And I recommend that you pop onto that Privacy Commission website, because it will really give you some good insights into industries and trends and styles of attack. So this is just information we've pulled off this from July to December last year. Again, it very much fits into that conversation that I've been saying. Human error, malware attack, when you put those together, there are most of your attacks on businesses with ANZ. On a side note, it's disappointing to know that ANZ, we get hit above the world average. And I think it's just because of our take-up of technology and our willingness to be online, as they see us as it's a first world country who uses technology a lot. And so they do focus on us more than some other countries, unfortunately. So here again, this breaks down the style of attacks. And what you see over time is this will change. So that blue section there, which is the phishing, that was the problem that our Hawaiian friend had, where they're using social media and they're basically tricking people to give access, through credentials that allows the bad guys to get into your systems, delete your backups, delete your antivirus, and then, create havoc within your network. And again, when we look at industries, legal and accounting, insurance, education, finance, health services, these are the guys, these are the organizations that they're focusing on. Construction and engineering is another big one, because again, they understand the importance of that data. Imagine as a construction company, if a criminal gang was able to steal all your plans, how much would you pay to get that information back? And again, we see the styles of businesses that are attacked just quarterly. There's a who's here, so I'm sure there's a few businesses you're probably dealing with. Unfortunately, there's probably some of your data has been lost in these breaches. So with that, I hope I haven't scared you too much, because, the good news about this is by working with an MSP and by working with Netcare and by teaming up with Datto, we can put strategies and technologies in place which will mean that all of those attacks are redundant and can actually be successful in your business. But with that, I'm going to bring Michael back in, and we're actually going to go to Q&A. So we have got the Q&A box open. So if you guys have got any questions, please throw it in the Q&A, and we will actually answer these as we go along. But also, I believe there's a prize draw to do as well. Michael, is that right?
Yes, we have an Alexa Echo show up for a draw. So
I'm excited. Am I in this draw?
No, you're not.
Oh no! That looks great. I'd love one of these.
Yeah, no, they're a good prize.
Individual's going to win one. How are we doing this draw, Michael?
Right, so I've got a random draw set up on some software, so I'm just about to do that now, and we'll call out the winner while people are thinking about their questions.
Do you want a drum roll? I can do a drum roll.
Okay, yeah, 1, 2, 3. Hang on.
Oh,
here it comes.
All right.
There we go. And the winner is Tim Penny. So congratulations, Tim. This will be coming your way.
Congratulations, Tim. And Andy gets a Uber Eats voucher as well.
Yeah, he's had a big day.
So I'm just looking here. We don't have any questions. Is there anything we would love to get any questions, guys? So please don't be shy if you got something there for us. If not,
I've got a question of you, Peter. What did you do for the 30 minutes while you're waiting for that second test in Hawaii?
Well, let me tell you, the whole concept of society is a bit of a sham, because I went down in a lift. We were only on the 7th floor at Waikiki, right? When I went down in a lift, and two things. One, Australians are great to have in an emergency because we're pretty calm, right? So when I went down in a lift to go, I said to the girls, I said, let me just go and see what's going on here. This doesn't seem right. I went down and the lift opened, and it was just carnage in the lobby. Like, there was people running everywhere, there was screaming, and I'm sitting there going, oh, okay, this isn't ideal. And what I saw is Australians tend to take a crisis maybe a little bit better than our American brethren, and we're probably just a little bit calmer in those scenarios. But yeah, it was a very interesting 30 minutes, to say the least.
Yeah. Some good things that come out of that presentation. Well, one of the bad things that a little bit concerning was that, and I probably agree with you, is that ransomware attacks will eventually happen. And I think that that's a little, it's not a case of if, it's a case of when. One of the things that we're happy with at Netcare is that we have now instigated a staff awareness training program. So if anyone is interested in that, you can speak to Nielsen, because we've been doing it here at Netcare, and I find that the program is quite useful. It is a good educational program. I'm thankful for you, Peter. You certainly have clarified for me the difference between business continuance and backups, because in my previous life, I was all about that type of stuff, and you've clearly differentiated for me the difference between the two.
Fantastic. We got a quick question here, Michael. So I'll just go to this. So Mitch has asked, are there any continuity considerations in your cloud backup product, e.g. incoming mail capture while primary services are down? So good question, Mitch. So the good thing about being in 365, for instance, or G Suite is you've got the redundancy in there to capture the emails. So the problem is that's always going to be available, because you're running with the big dog, which is Microsoft, and they're making sure their systems are available. So they'll always capture that email. If you got a malware attack though, which hit your mailbox, then what we would do is we'd basically delete that mailbox in effect and recover from the previous snapshot. Now that might be at worst case 8 hours, right? So there might be an 8 hours window there, or 7 hours and a few minutes window where you may not have captured what was in there. And so there might be a block there. You need to go back and get a few people, send some additional emails again if it was just in that window. But your email will never be bounced or taken back, because Microsoft is still receiving that. It's just an actual issue with your mailbox, which we would revert back from. So between 365 and the SaaS backup, the cloud backup, that would cover both of those instances. But what I would say is there's been a lot of information given out today, and we understand we've thrown a lot at you. Michael's got access to all of our support teams, and we would love to do any one-on-one demonstrations where we actually show you the product live and operational. And I know Kerry, who is the Datto account manager for Netcare, has put together some quite aggressive options around the on-premise solutions that will be available between now and the end of the year. And so I'd recommend reaching out to Michael and talking to Kerry about how we can put together an aggressive solution for you guys, which would then remove these risks of data loss and continuity interruptions.
Okay, so we're still a little bit ahead of time, but if there's no more questions, no more questions there, Peter?
I'm just looking here now. No, I think we are done on it. We had the one, which thank you, Mitch, but I think there's no more in there right now. Okay.
All right. Well, I always like to finish a meeting early, so we won't continue to play around. I'd like to thank Peter very much and the team at Datto for all their efforts in bringing this event to our customers. And I'd like to thank all of our customers for attending, and I hope you enjoyed your lunch. Now, I wouldn't be a salesperson if I didn't have a sales pitch. So if you have any further questions in relation to Datto in particular and or staff awareness training, then please contact Nielsen or myself, and we'd be happy to oblige and give you a proposal to keep your business doors open in a lot more challenging time. And it's great to have that there is now a solution able for us to be able to put in place. Once again, thank you, Peter, thank you, Datto, and particularly big thank you for all of our customers for attending.
Thanks, guys. Everyone have a lovely day. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.